Hey everybody, what's up? Winding down to the last few episodes of Twin Peaks. This is episode 20 of season 2, and it is entitled The Path to the Black Lodge. And before I start, I just wanted to mention that I realize that I have been misspelling Windom Earle's name, at least the Windom part. The way I've been spelling it seems is the most common, but it's actually Windom, which is, to me, actually kind of a stupid way of spelling it. But I saw it, excuse me, I saw it pop up during, having to catch it during the opening credits. So yeah, I'll go back and I'll alter the spelling in the descriptions eventually, but it's not a big thing, but I just noticed that. So yes, I did misspell it in case any of the purists out there want to bust my chops for missing a detail like that. All right, like I said, it is episode 20 of season 2. Only 2 more episodes to go, so let's get started. We start out returning to the scene of the crime, where the corpse of that drifter is within the giant pawn piece, is being moved from the gazebo. The sheriff interviews a friend of the deceased. Apparently that guy was in a rock band or something, the guy that was killed, and this guy was a friend of his and a roadie. Talks about that they were approached by a guy that came out of the woods wearing a weird suit, told him they had beer. His friend went with him, he didn't, and his friend ended up dead. And of course, Andy starts weeping because any sad story makes him cry. And Dale realizes now that Windom is indeed playing off the board because he didn't notify them of his chess deal before this took place. So, what we've kind of knew from previous episodes, now Dale is confirming. So yeah, the chess thing is no good anymore as far as a way to decipher future moves that Windom will make. Yeah, and apparently Lucy is considering joining the Miss Twin Peaks contest. Whoop-de-doo. Yeah, another John Justice Wheeler scene. Moving on. Doc Hayward and Ben Horn have a brief discussion, I guess after a routine physical or something. About something, that's what we've watched that's been going on with Donna's mother and Ben meeting. There's some secret. John mentions Donna and Ben, or no, John mentions Donna as far as meeting her and mentioning her as the Doc's daughter. Ben and Doc share a glance. Then we go to a scene in the attic of the Hayward's home where Donna is looking at a birth certificate that doesn't have her father's name on it. I think you can figure out what the big secret is. It's just stupid soap opera stuff. It was pointless to have pointless really to have it in the show at all. But anyway, I guess they paid Donna, actress, a certain amount of money for a certain amount of episodes, so they have to figure her into the plot somehow. Hawk stops by the Great Northern to let Audrey know that she is wanted by Agent Cooper at the sheriff's station. Major Briggs gives some tasks to one of the members of the Bookhouse Boys as they're all trying to work towards solving the mystery of the cave painting. And apparently the Major spent all night going over the Project Blue Book files on Windom Earle. And apparently when they shifted their operation from focusing on outer space to the area around Twin Peaks, Windom became destructively obsessive, according to the Major. He became secretive and then eventually violent before he was removed. We see an interview with Earle that is pretty cool. I really like this point where we kind of see where his madness has really started to manifest, and I believe this is still it's supposed to be during the late 60s. Yeah, he basically is discussing these sorcerers called the Dugpas or Dogpas that cultivate evil for the sake of evil. and they embrace evil or darkness in a pure form, which according to Windom Earle allows them to access the Black Lodge. Apparently, the Black Lodge is a place where evil cultivates in exponential fashion, again according to Windom Earle. And he says that the Black Lodge is tangible and thus can be located, entered, and the forces within it possibly utilized, similar to how he described it to the guy that ended up getting killed and put in the pawn piece. Yeah, the Sorcerer's Earl mentions, as I said, are the Dugpas or Dogpas. They're members of a sect of the Kagyu school of Tibetan Buddhism. I'm not sure if any will even be familiar with that, but they're a sect of Tibetan Buddhism. He describes them basically as being practitioners of black magic, I guess you could say, but I think this is pretty much Twin Peaks lore, and it isn't based on their actual practices. From what I've read, where they might have got this perception of them is that from a Western interpretation of this sect of Buddhism, they could be considered as following the left-hand path, and that's something I'm not going to go into because I don't want to drift away from into a discussion on occultism. So basically, I guess it's kind of almost like the Yazidi of the Kurds who were kind of labeled as devil worshippers by the Western, philosophers or religious types, but it's kind of an ignorant statement of their religion. So I think that's what this kind of is. Someone maybe read a little bit about them and thought it would be a cool idea to include them in there. As kind of a way that Windom Earle was able to discover what the Black Lodge was, or heard about it, because he, So I don't know enough about them to give an informed opinion. So let us move on. Now Dale basically realizes that Windom has come back for the Black Lodge, not specifically for him. Windom listens in on the conversation, of course, because he's got his little thing planted there in that little bonsai. And it looks like Major's headed out for a walk, and Windom may be crossing his path. Leo sneakily grabs the controller for his shot collar, puts it in his pocket. At the Double R, there's a lady eating pie, and all of a sudden has a tremor in her right arm or hand, followed by some strange kind of backing sound effects. So it's kind of odd just for that to come out of nowhere. Miss Twin Peaks related stuff with Shelley and so on. Nothing of real interest. Dale talks with the three girls that got a piece of the poem. Shelley identifies Leo's handwriting, and Dale warns them that they are in danger. Right. Yeah, Windom talks briefly about the Dogpas. He says they remind him of the Kali worshippers of India. Kali, I believe, is like goddess of destruction for the Hindus. And Leo recognizes Shelley's image on the Queen of Spades card. Windom asks Leo if he would mourn her passing. And Leo turns the controller on Windom. Unfortunately, he's too dumb to realize that he still has the shot collar around his neck, so basically shocks himself into oblivion. So it's pretty obvious that at this point Leo doesn't want any harm to come to Shelley. So, and Windom is definitely amused by Leo's buffoonery. Audrey is looking for John Justice Wheeler, gets Pete to drive her to go find him. Dale believes at the sheriff's station that this map may indicate a certain time, as well as it may be an invitation of sorts, as he interprets it, as if these are instructions for a time and place, perhaps, but still is a bit foggy on what exactly everything means. And he's pretty much admitting to Harry that he's distracted by Annie because he thinks about her all the time, and then all of a sudden his arm or hand starts to tremor with that same backing sound. So, yeah, interesting. It's happened to two people in far removed from each other as far as location goes. Major Briggs is walking through the woods. And then all of a sudden he reaches for a scar on his neck. I'm not sure if that's because he's in a certain location within the woods, or if it's the presence of Windom Earle. But Windom Earle and Leo in a horse costume march up to Major Briggs, who I guess because he's seen so much weird shit in his life, he doesn't think anything of, somebody, either he maybe thinks it's a hallucination or something, but Windom nails him with a tranq dart, and the Major's out. We see John Justice Wheeler getting ready to take off in his private plane. At the Double R, Dale meets up with Annie. And they talk for a while. They have a quick kiss, and then all of a sudden some dishes break out of the blue, and then we get this slow motion kind of close up of some dark liquid just dripping slowly and with a loud drip. So we'll have to see what exactly that is symbolizing, but it has its place. These kind of weird things are all of a sudden happening with the tremored hands and whatnot. Windom interrogates Major Briggs back at the cabin about the cave painting in Owl Cave. And eventually Windom hits the Major with something, I'm assuming like sodium pentothal or other quote-unquote truth serum. Asks a few random questions before getting to the point. Major again says he mentioned something about dreams and seeing the paintings at Owl Cave in his dreams, which dreams, like I said, are a huge part in Twin Peaks and the supernatural activity therein. So not surprising there. And he refers back to the incident when he was taken, when Agent Cooper and him were night fishing. He refers to the light and a guardian beyond it, which I assume the guardian was the robed figure that we saw briefly. And the most important thing that he does say to Windom Earle is, there is a time, if Jupiter and Saturn meet, they will receive you. And after that, the Major says some gibberish before the conversation ends. So Jupiter and Saturn, two celestial bodies. Over at the Martells, Andrew Packard sees the zodiac signs on the box, puts in a few birth dates, and then puts in the date the gift arrived, and the box opens. Voila! Smashes the inner part, and then we are down to a little kind of rectangular metal box. So, still haven't gotten to the secret of it just yet. Dale and Annie are at the Great Northern. I guess it's like maybe a before the contest type of ball or dance or something. She basically confesses all of her feelings for him, says that she's not afraid of what she feels or wants. And she decides that she's going to join the Miss Twin Peaks contest, and saying that everything that's happened, thus since she came to Twin Peaks is like a fairy tale of sorts. And Dale mentions that, and you're the queen. And all of a sudden, how at the Roadhouse we saw before, the kind of everything darkens and everyone's kind of still. It's almost like time stands still for a second, and we see the giant. And he appears and he's waving his hands and he's mouthing the word no, he's saying, don't do that. But he's, just through his gestures, and Dale just kind of looks at him and he's, not sure what to make of it. And I think the giant is warning him about something, and which we know, as far as the Miss Twin Peaks and the queen and the one being the one that dies, that is, what the giant is warning him about. Though I don't think he can mouth it out in words. Maybe that breaks some kind of rule of interfering with the life of the mortal world. Audrey and Pete go night fishing, moving on. Leo is pretty much losing his mind as the Major continues to kind of mumble gibberish. Windom is ecstatic because he has finally figured out something very important. The planet Jupiter and the planet Saturn hint at a time, I'm assuming when they through some rotation or orbit around the sun, line up with each other. I'm assuming that's what it means when they meet. The cave painting is actually a map. That is the big secret. We've been wanting to find out, and Windom found out first, so that does not bode well. Windom's got a bunch of computer equipment, and antiquated compared to what we have, but I guess he's got electricity hooked up there, or generator or something. So he's all tapped in, though I imagine there's no internet. And his map or his software program places the painting over a map of Twin Peaks, and he's trying to, I guess, get it to see where it specifically lines up. And it is actually a map that leads the user or the observer to the Black Lodge itself, which is where the Black Lodge is the destination. And from what we've heard about it, it is not a very nice place. It is where evil cultivates exponentially. So it's like they're going into the belly of the beast. And having realized that it is a map, Windom indulges in some diabolic laughter. And have I mentioned that this guy friggin' nails the role? The guy, the actual name is Kenneth Welsh. And dude's awesome. I don't know if he's going to be in season 3 or not. Odds are I doubt it, but we'll have to see. You never know. And finally, we get a flashback to the Great Northern, and the giant's image vanishes. So we get this revelation that Windom realizes that it's a map to the Black Lodge, and at the same time, the giant is kind of warning Dale because he's trying to interfere with what the course of fate or something, or giving him warning, whatnot. The giant's image vanishes. Dale and Annie kiss. And then we're kind of we go drift away from that, and are shown some kind of camera shots of moving down different hallways. I think we see the Great Northern, sheriff's office, the hospital as well, and then we see the picture of the cave painting map, and then we go to a location, I assume out in the woods somewhere. And there's a grouping of trees kind of like in a circle. And then we see a hand that's twitching reach out from empty space, and that denim jacket, and we know whose hand that belongs to. Bob emerges from the empty space and appears in complete view. So I don't know if that means he's physically manifested himself in the third dimension or not, or if there's something unique to that one little spot he's at. And then we see a white circle on the ground. I don't know if it's stones or if it's some kind of dusting or something that's marked that circle, and some kind of liquid in it. And we see in the, I guess it wouldn't be the reflection, or maybe it is a reflection, of the red curtains that we know so well from the Black Lodge. So this is one of the top episodes, as far as I'm concerned, at least in the second half of the story, when we're focused on Windom Earle as the main antagonist. It's an awesome, the whole talk about the Dugpas, and the more description of what Windom Earle found out about the Black Lodge, and how to get there, and what it is. And the Major's pretty much confirming that without saying that Earle is definitely onto something, and that he's not. He probably wasn't. He probably went nuts from the fact that all these, these revelations. It's almost kind of a Lovecraftian thing when you think about it. When you stumble upon something, so shocking, in the supernatural sense, or the cosmically sinister sense, that it, just kind of blows your mind, and you either go completely stark raving mad, or you I don't know, it twists your mind and your soul, or whatever, your conscious, and towards, evil or some destructive act. And that's kind of what happened to Windom Earle in a nutshell, basically. I think the revelation, as he moved further and further into this search for the Black Lodge, just kind of warped him, twisted him, because he's pursuing a place that is pure evil. So, and he wants to harness that energy or that power to wield it for obviously not benevolent purposes. This amazing episode. If you skip through all the filler crap and just watch the main parts that matter, it's awesome. I think one of these days I'm going to go through a few of these episodes on my computer and edit out all the filler and just, get them down to the main plot and just watch it through one more time without the distractions. Because, like I said, I've watched the show enough that I'm not really all that interested in what, Donna's parental, who her real parents are, or, the Miss Twin Peaks thing, and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, this episode was chock full of great content, and we're leading up to the finale. I've got one more episode for episode 21 that's regular length, and then I'll have a longer episode, a review with the final episode, and probably do a lot of talking. That could be a long one, but I think it'll be worth it. And then I will, over the weekend, I will not be here. I will be out of town, so I shall watch the movie on my laptop, watch all of the extended material, take copious notes, organize a review of it and some discussion of it, and I'll try to cut out, like I said, I'll try to cut out as much of the filler stuff that isn't necessary, but a lot of it is. So it may be an hour, plus for the movie review. But like I said, if you're a fan of the show, I'm sure you will get something out of it. So it won't be a waste of your time. Like I said, just if you're doing the dishes or or folding laundry or whatever, throw it on in the background and listen to it. I think it'll be worth your while. But yeah, I'm going to get episode 21 up and with episode 20, and then focus on getting the last episode and the movie review out Tuesday, Wednesday-ish. And then that following Sunday, it's season 3, and I'll have an episode review. Thankfully, I don't work Sunday nights, so I should be able to get an episode review of that done and up Monday. So until then, folks, I hope you enjoy this review. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I'll talk to you next time. Take it easy.